Hey, welcome to Vortex Garage, and today we're going to start work on the rear quarter panel of our Triumph Spitfire. Let's go ahead and bring you along for the ride, and let's go ahead and get started. Let's take a look at our rear quarter panel and figure out our game plan. So we are going to probably replace this entire quarter panel, even though it doesn't look all that bad at first glance. As you kind of come and look at it, we do have some dents here that are not just simple dents, they're a little more creased, and there's a little bit of possible rust there. But then as you come along here, we've got this kind of real nasty spot right here. There's a lot of pitting, and that wraps all the way around to here. And then along the edge here, we've got a lot of rust. So basically where the lip would go, this entire section is damaged and would have to come off anyway. Of course, the bottom piece is damaged, which is very common. Now you can get patch panels just for the bottom, but in our case, this piece right here is going to be quite a bit of work. It may be easier to just replace the entire thing. And when you factor in the time to cut out the bottom piece, repair that flange, put that in, that's a fair amount of work. And then of course we come here, which you've seen on camera before. This entire piece has been cut out due to rust damage as well. Fortunately, this piece is all pretty decent here. You know, there's a couple small dents that could easily be hammered out or worked. So all in all, this is probably borderline. This is one of those where you look at it and you say, this is probably repairable with just the bottom panels to be welded in. But if you think about it, you've got your spot welds along here on your wheel well. And they're pretty accessible, as you can see. We've got spot welds across the top seam, and that's covered up by the stainless steel trim. And then you've got a lip here that looks like it folds over, and there's probably some spot welds in there as well that you would pull out, and we're going to need to repair anyway. So, of course, you got spot welds along the front here, along the edge of the door jamb. So I'm pretty sure, and what we're going to do today is go ahead and remove this piece and work on getting the other one prepped and ready to install. And I am pretty confident I'm going to replace the whole thing. I know I could come in and do a panel transfer, you know, cut a line on the top and butt weld it in. But honestly, I feel like just removing these spot welds and the fact that this line is covered up by a trim piece, it actually makes it pretty simple on this car to blend it in. So a couple spots that are going to be interesting to work would be right up here. You can kind of see there's no logical transition from the seam there to our edge. And it's a little tough to see, but there's a little bit of material change there. I think you can actually, the flashlight helps show it. If we go to the other side, we can show you this is probably brazing. I don't think they were still using lead at this point, but I don't really know for sure. So we can always assume that it's lead and, you know, be careful as we're taking that off and grinding it and having a respirator on, just because you don't want to be breathing lead in. That could just be regular brazed material, which is what I've seen on some of the other areas, like even down in here, some of that was brazed on. But let me show you on the other side, because this is interesting. This came back from the sandblaster. And let me see if I can get the camera so you can see it really good. As you can see, that looks like some of that brazing material either wasn't put on as nice from the factory or has come off in the sandblasting, and you can actually see that line there. So we're going to need to grind that and remove it, and then cut that seam right there and then take it off. Now, of course, that begs the question, what are we going to do on this side? Well, we have the same damage on the bottom. Less damage here. I mean, this seam along the back is a lot better. This dent is fairly big, and whatever hit it definitely caved it in, but it's a little more of a, what they call an oil can dent, where it's a larger dent surface, probably easier to pull out. And since we have access to the back through the trunk, we might try hammering this out. Our lip is pretty solid. We've got a little small dent there. On this one, I'm hoping and thinking that maybe I won't need to do the entire thing, that we'll be able to smooth it out, work that dent out with our stud welder and puller, and just replace the bottom piece there and the bottom piece up front. So they're both very close to that, but this one, I think the fact that the seam has a little more damage along the edge here, I'm going to go ahead and do this one and try to remove it. And you know what? We're going to see how bad it is. And if I regret it, then I'll make sure I don't do it on the other side. But if I go, hey, that really wasn't too hard to remove and replace, I may just do it as a time saver, replace the whole piece on the other side and save the time from hammering the dents out. All right, let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to start with is, well, just getting some of the spot welds cut out. Okay, so you're probably wondering what this line is. This line corresponds with our body line here and is pretty level with it. And if I just eyeball it, and I checked it with that. So the whole idea, when I put my new one in, I can work to make sure that's lined up. Even though it should flow pretty well here, there is a bit of a body line in this. I still want to match that up and eventually come back with the door as I'm fitting this, but I want to take a few reference marks in the meantime, which I'm going to do in the back side as well. All right, so we used our punch tool to go ahead and put some areas for our pilot holes. Now I've learned with the spot weld drill bits, it's really good to have a pilot hole in here. The key is though, I don't want to drill into this. I only want to drill through here. So we're going to do some really light drilling. Nothing that's going to go all the way through. This will help the spot weld drill bit as it tries to go in. You can always tell when you go through a little bit because you see some of the rust from underneath come out. Went through on that one, that's no big deal. We'll stitch that up with a weld. We're going to need some holes through this anyway for trinkos, so that looks like that's going to be where one of them goes. It's funny how you can really tell so much of this was done by hand that each one of these spot welds is just a little bit out of alignment. If you look on a modern car built by robotics, they'd all be perfect in line. So I did get some new spot weld cutters for all of $15. These are the cheap ones. Here, it's already got one mounted. And these are quite a bit cheaper than the nicer ones, the Blairs that I have. So we're going to see if they hold up as well. I've had this kit, this one little kit, and I used it on a non-Spitfire thing. I think I have one cutting head left out of 3. And I broke one, and I broke one of the center pilots. This thing has held up through everything else that I've put it through. Now this was a little more expensive. I don't remember how much. These are 14 bucks. I don't know why I am interested in trying junk, but I'm curious to see how it holds up in comparison and how well it cuts. I think they all skip around. So let's pick an easy one. So giving me that pilot hole is going to help it from skipping. Still skipping. Yeah, that cut through. I'm almost cutting through the, no, not the back piece, that's the side. So that's good. All right, let's try this one. This one's really off on the corner. All right, Skippy. All right, as long as we're slow and careful with this. Nice. Well, they're working good. I mean, they're brand new and sharp, so. And I do have the lubrication for this, so I'll put a little bit of that on there just to help it out. Are they better than the Blairs? No, the Blairs are nicer. But these work, and they're a cheap replacement to hack through this. I kind of like the higher speed. What I like to do is get the speed going and then lightly press it into the panel, let it do some cutting. Woo! It still wants to walk sometimes. I gotta watch my woos. It's not like Ric Flair doing some body work here. Letting the cutter do the work. Whoa, too far on that one. I just put a giant hole in it. I'm gonna have to fix that. Again, I don't want to damage this. That's repairable. It's all metal. You can put metal back together. It's just more work. Okay, now I don't know if all of those are all the way through, but I don't want to cut into this bottom metal if I can avoid it. So that's what we're going to do for now. So I still need to, there we go, fix that. I'm still going to need to trim this piece up here. I'll probably throw my mask on just because I don't know what that is. Don't want it to be lead. We're going to need to rotate the body, and we're going to need to come in here and do all the spot welds in here, and then we can work on these as well. I'm curious, will the drill be able to get up here? Yeah, it looks like it will. So I should have no problem drilling those out. First, we're going to come along and find all of our spot welds. Mark them. You know you got rust issues when you punch and it goes all the way through. These are actually not coming all the way through. It's fairly solid, but I know when we drill these, we're going to see some rust come out. Oh, that one went right through. Lots of rust. I'm afraid what we're going to find behind here. Luckily, this inner wheel well is nice and solid. Even this inner strip is solid, but around this lip on it, we'll see how it looks, especially on the bottom. Like we had to replace this piece. Still got to grind that weld down, but I have a feeling we're going to need to cut this radius a little bit, get it to match up. Stop talking, get to work. That one's off. Maybe from how the tool gripped it. There we go. how you cut one. That one looks nice. That one looks a little bit wild. That's better. All right, so this is going to be boring on video, even though it would make a good time lapse. I'm going to save my cards and my batteries, and I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these, and then we won't be popping any panels till we come back. All right, we got our spot weld holes cut. Hopefully they're all through. That one obviously is. Again, weak metal behind it. We'll see what we find when we pull this off. We've gone all around, and if we didn't get some of them all the way, as we go to pop the panel and we find them, we'll be able to cut them wherever they're holding. This one looks like it might be that one possibly, but the rest of them look like they're cut through pretty good. Again, you don't want to go too far because you end up cutting into the panel underneath, and if the panel underneath is in really good shape, it just gives you more work to do. Whereas if you're careful, you can sometimes avoid that and have a nice piece underneath. All right, so this panel is done here. We've got all of our spot welds cut along here. So our next piece is up top where we have a bunch. And the only other thing we got to figure out, and I'll roll the car back down, is how this is put on. Because I'm not seeing any visible spot welds there. I almost wonder, could it be that this is just a lip that's put on here and pressed in, and it's a friction fit? I mean, come on, there's no way. I mean, I can see that they at least brazed or welded the ends, but I don't see any visible signs of spot weld. I know it's probably hard to see on this GoPro with the wider lens, but still, I don't see it. We'll find out when we go to pull it off. Maybe we'll wait till the end on this piece and see, but, well, actually, look. This is rusted. Look at that, I can just fold that back and peel it off. Actually, this is just a trim piece that's fit over. Huh. This isn't a stainless piece that they painted over, I don't think. I don't recall. You know, funny how I've had this car for so long and I learned things. Okay, so there's the spot welds we need to go. So this is just a cap, basically. This looks like the stainless steel trim you'd see up there. I didn't know if they had any that went down to the bottom. Maybe it was painted and it's just put on there. I want to have to see if I can buy a replacement one of these. I could probably make it, but this would be a nice easy part to replace if it's inexpensive. So on the floor. In that case, we'll move this in, we'll tackle these spot welds, and then we'll finish the ones on the top. All right, so now that we've got that cap piece off, we can see our spot welds. They are a little harder to see due to some of the original rust. One thing that we've shown you can do in the past is you can grind down and it'll kind of help uncover the indented spots, or you can just feel for them, or if you can't see them, you can often find them. That's messy. All right, and I think there's one here. I don't think there's any between here and here, which is a bit of a gap, but we're going to see when we go to pull it off. All these are so rusty down here. I think this part's going to split and come apart. All right, I don't even know why I'm using this tool, but chop that off. Let's see how good this is going to do. If we can get in here with our chisel. All right, we pretty much got all those popped. All right, so we're going to need to cut the welds along here where our lamp is, and we've got some spot welds here. We don't want to damage the area underneath here because that's where our light goes. Hopefully you can see that. So we're going to have those to do, but we can put the car level again. Our next stage is be all these. All right, there we go. That's some pilot holes. While we're at it, let's go ahead and do this. I kind of like the pulse method. Kind of keeps it from digging or walking around too much. Helps it dig in. All right, don't have a lot of battery left, but you can see what we're doing. We're a third of the way through. Let's go ahead and do the rest of these, and we'll catch up once we swap out batteries. All right, so we've got pretty much all of our spot weld holes drilled. Whether or not they're all through, we'll see when we go to take it off, and we'll tweak any that are missing the depth that they need, no big deal. But what we need to do before we start popping this panel is cut some of the areas where they brazed the ends, including here. Now, I don't know what material they used, so just in case it's lead, I'm gonna throw on my little mask here, which should help, because lead is pretty nasty. I don't need to become a Mad Hatter. All right, now that we've got that, All right. So basically what I was trying to do here is cut, after I kind of ground down, found where the edge was, I cut inside a little bit. So I'm actually trimming the old quarter panel and trying to avoid cutting into this top panel. If I do, I can fix it, no big deal. But I'd prefer to cut the piece I'm tearing off and replacing. And once this is all out of the way, I can come in here with a roll lock and whatever and clean it up, make it the way I want it to be able to weld pieces onto it. But we'll have to probably sand away a lot more of that when we get to it. You can really see they kind of put a lot of this on. Interesting. All right, so same on the back. Same on the back, there's a couple of spots here. So I'm just coming in with the cutoff disc first to kind of cut a line there, and then we'll come in and sand a bunch off, but we'll have the same thing done. We'll have that line. All right, now it's time to go ahead and get our panel loose. We're going to use our panel popper. I think I want to start on the bottom. That way I have it held by the top, but I can come in and do it on the top and just let it fall off. The two hardest areas are going to be inside the door here and the door jamb and underneath the wheel well. So let's start with the wheel well. And I'm hoping I don't have to go all the way over. And I'm hoping my popper fits in there. The other option would be to do the top, come along here, and then just rip the whole thing off, hoping these are all loose. Let's see. I hope you can see with some of these camera angles, because sometimes I'm not sure. Most of these I popped pretty good, so we should just be able to come in and pry them up and off. That one's not cut through. So I got most of them. There we go. All right. Now let's try some of these. Sometimes a simple pair of, or a simple screwdriver can work. There we go. Pull this off. Yeah, for right now, that's good enough. We'll come back in and clean this up, and I'm going to have to fix that flange anyway. There, look at that. That whole panel's pretty much loose now, except right there. There we go. Oh, look at that. See, that whole piece is off. I'm seeing this one not quite cut yet. That'll do it. All right, now we're going to come along the top here, and we're going to start trying to split the seam. Try to find an open spot. If we can. So I think it is actually 3 pieces seam welded here. I believe your inner trunk structure comes up here as well, so that makes sense. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but the inner structure in the trunk would come up into here and right along here. So you can kind of see it looks like right about here. Can you see up that far? Yeah. So maybe right about here that stops. So, all right, that's interesting. So hopefully our spot welds are still drilled through. They need to be, but that means we need to get a place started. We got one here. Sometimes it just means wherever you can find a spot to get in, go for it. On that edge and just get it to bend over. I hope you can see what I'm doing, but see that edge is really not well defined. If we can just ride the edge of it and tap that, we can get this bent down. And I also, as you can see here, you can see that I started pounding there a little hard and I started bending our quarter panel in. Well, I don't want to end up bending this top panel in, which I don't think I'll do if I'm careful, but more reason to be careful. All right, sometimes when this gets too not sharp enough, just come over to our grinder, put a little edge on it. Look at that. Coming loose. Looks like I got a little bit here, and then I'll have a pretty big section of panel off. Oh, that's off. So ow, ow. That's why we wear gloves. Okay, let's keep moving down the line if we can. Now we got a little edge coming here. This one, I need an edge. There we go. I feel like these weren't cut that great. Let's make life a little easier. All right, that's all pretty well cut off. So this piece is such a mess, we're just going to cut it and we can deal with it afterwards. Oh, look at that. Don't fall off now. It's about to fall off. Ah, look at that. A little bit of rust stuck on here. All right. That's one quarter panel removed. And look, we have access to all this, which we can make look really nice. And we can clean all this stuff out, come in here and cut this back and away. And all that, come on, cut off. All right. But look at that, it's one quarter panel removed. And just because I know you're curious, that's approximately how the new one will fit. So that's probably it for today, because I've got some other things I need to do and I don't know when we're going to pick back up on this, and I might edit the video before then. So if I do, let's wrap this one up as simply a disassembly video. Next up, we're going to be mocking in the new one and prepping to install it. Of course, first we'll need to come in here and clean up all our surfaces and also take care of our inner structure here and protect that. But exciting to see that piece out of the way. It's the next big piece of this big puzzle. Well, until then, we'll see you here on Vortex Garage. All right, so just a little bit of an epilogue. We didn't do too much more after the filming we did, except a little bit of cleanup in here. And well, I'm wrapping up, so let me grab camera and show you, and we'll have this at the end of this video, and then we'll work on doing more of this as we go forward. So what I've done is some exploratory grinding work, coming in with a grinding flap disc, and then of course a roll lock disc, which is a little tamer, and cleaning up all this to see where is the coatings and where is the rust. And sometimes telling that line of where the solid metal is not the most simplest thing in the world. So I like to use the grinding disc. If it grinds away pretty easy and you get to solid metal, and that metal's nice and solid behind it, then you're in good shape. But as you get down into here, you get into this pitted stuff. And as you go to grind it away, it just never quite wants to go away because it's just all pitted, and it'd take forever to grind it down to get through there. And by the time you do, well, there's already holes, but it would be super paper thin. So the good thing is that does not appear to be a rust hole. That looks like, I don't think it's a rust hole because this is solid and this is actually a seam. So I'm not sure what that is, but this is a drain hole. This is also another companion hole. I don't think, well, no, that's rust. It's hard to tell sometimes. But the point is, it looks like we're solid up in here. Right about here on our lip, we get into the bad stuff. So I can make a piece here. I can come along here and I'll probably cut the line, you know, right about here, make a piece like I did right here. So I'll be able to rebuild this part of the tub pretty easily, just like we're doing on this side. And then along here, I'll come in and cut this out. What I was really hoping, and I believe is the case, is that all of these pieces here are solid, so I don't have to remake and bead roll this stuff out, which I could do, but it would be more work. It's a heck of a lot easier to just cut out a straight piece and put it in. We also have a bit of a dent right here. There's a little bit of a dent under here, but it looks like, I don't know if that's part of assembly, if to make it fit, it was hit in or what, but I'm pretty confident when we come along here, we can make that a nice straight piece. So I'll come and cut here, down and around like that. So we'll have one kind of hockey shaped kind of hockey stick kind of shaped thing here. I guess hockey shaped is good, right? You think hockey shaped, you think that? So, but like a hockey stick. So we'll do that, like a Mercury logo. And we'll replace that and we'll rebuild this piece right here. And then the rest of this is nice and solid. This should be solid here. I'll grind it down, but this looked about the same right here. And this is nice and solid. And then of course we do have a few spots where we drilled through and we'll have to do some weld repairs on those and grind them flat. But that's about it. So I just wanted to get an idea of how bad the rust was down here, what we're going to have to be repairing. So before we can put our new quarter panel on, we're going to have to do all this cleanup work. We're going to rust prevent all in here, put all kinds of coatings on this to make it nice and safe so it'll never rust. All right, we'll catch you here on Vortex Garage.